Hello out there, all my crafty friends. I've got these Beatrice Potter books done, and I love the way they turned out. They're so cute. They're some of my favorite books from my childhood, and I was lucky enough to get 5 of these from Renee over at GT Designs and Vintage Art Supplies. Sorry about that, my hand's coming in here. Thank you, Renee. And I've had them for a while, and I just kind of had a hard time taking them apart because they were in good shape. They're not vintage. These are from the 80s. These did not have dates in them, but they're not old copies of the books. I mean, they're old, but they're not, you know what I mean, not extremely old. But I thought they would make the cutest journals, and I thought, you know what, these need to be loved, because here they were just sitting on a shelf. So I decided to take them apart. So I'm going to do the first video on these 3, and then I'm going to come back and do another video on these 3. And they're all pretty much the same as far as, I mean, there's little difference. There's subtle differences in each. They're not all identical, of course. The stories are in, the full stories are in all of them except for the Tale of Benjamin Bunny. And all of them have 4 signatures except for, there's one that has 5, and I think that is the Apple Dapply's Nursery Rhyme, so that'll be in the next video. But other than that, they're all pretty much, they're very similar in the style, the way I did them, and the things I put in here. So let me just start. I'm going to start with Jeremy, Tell Jeremy Fisher. So I stitched them all in, and I put buttons down the side. Now the buttons are not stitched into the signatures. They are glued on, but they're not going anywhere unless you actually just go yanking and pulling on. So they are glued on there. And each one has a seam binding closure. That's just coffee dyed. So I'm gonna flip through, and I'm gonna try to do this kind of quick. I left the insides like this, and then a couple of them did not have this on the inside, so there'll be some more pages in the journal like this. But I'm just going to do a quick flip and tell you what's in here. So they all have some of my tea stain mixed media paper. They all have like 5 fabric tabs with vintage buttons. All the buttons used in here are vintage. There's a lot of stitching that I did in here. There's one of my tags that I made, one of my collage tags. And they all have several pockets that have been stitched all the way around. And most of them have the little vintage postcards from Graphics Fairy that I stitched around, added to, you know, file folder and stitched around. So, and like I said, on these, the whole story is in here. So there's lots of pages. There's tons of places to journal. You can journal around the pictures. You know, you can put photographs in here. Whatever you want to do. So there's tea stain paper. There's tea stain graph paper. There's some vintage. This is 1929 vintage music paper from a book I found at my favorite store. Some writing paper. Scrapbook paper, and then in each one there's a tag that I made out of file folder that I tea dyed, and a piece of a vintage lace, one of my homemade buttons, and a vintage button. So the purpose for this is you can leave it like this, but for me to give this to you is you can use this tag any way you want to, and you can take this apart and use it throughout the book, or you can use it on another project. So I'm just trying to give you some of my things that I've done. It's just so, I had a really lot of fun making these. It's just so cute. I love them. And then here's some tea dyed tracing paper and envelope that I tea dyed as well and stitched around. And in each one of these I have one of my, let me get the other ones out of the way here. I hope I'm in frame. I have one of my book page tags that I made that I stitched around, and then I added a little butterfly, a little piece of fabric, a postage stamp that's backed with some file folder, and a vintage button. And I found this idea, I think Liz the Paper Project. I love that idea. She did hers a little bit different, but I just kind of put my my little twist on it. I thought it was so cute. So there's one of those in each book. Lots of stitching. I had a fun time using my sewing machine. Each one has a paper clip that I made like Tracie Fox did with a little flower glass bead on it. So there's one of those. They might be in different places in each book, but there's one in every book. And there's also one of these tags that I have attached to a little tiny paper clip with some vintage images off the Graphics Fairy. Some of my fabric, I just stapled that in. I stitched that around, and this is also on a book page. This is actually on a really old Bopsy Twin book that I took apart. I'm going to use the covers on something else. So these pages are glued together, and then this image is stitched on. And those books, I believe, are from the late, from like 1918, 1920, something like that. Anyway, it's really cool. This is the other side of the envelope pocket that I stitched, and I just glued a little butterfly. And this is also punched out butterfly that's been stamped. So a lot of the things in here I made separate from just doing the books. And the book is, the whole book is in here, I said that, and this in order. So this is a longer piece of the mixed media page that I put in here and created a fold out on both sides of this so you can journal or add pictures. Another little pocket, and then each one has a little T envelope with a little tag in it. And those are Graphics Fairy as well. So there's the other side of this. So that's really, I thought that was kind of cool to use those cutoffs in here. And that is that one. So that's the tale of Jeremy Fisher. So here is, here's the tale of Miss Tittlemouse. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to talk through the whole thing because it'll take me forever. So again, all these are vintage buttons, a lot of sewing, pretty much the same amount of sewing and stitching in each one. And I'm going to flip, and I hope you can see with my big hands in the way. There are a couple that have some little of the little post tags like that. I didn't have one for every book, and then another little T tag envelope. Look at that, so cute. I just love these books, and I hope that you all love them, and I hope that you know, they can find a new home and somebody can really enjoy them. And I tried not to overdo it, you know, overdo it with color or too much, and tried to keep it subtle and simple. So here's the tag in this one with the fabric and the stamp and the button. And you can move that around wherever you want in the book. There's the glass bead and paper clip, another postcard. The little butterfly. The 1920s music sheet book from the, it's an old folk songs book. This one is a little girl on this one. So each tag will not be the same with the same fabric and stuff, but you get the idea. Oh, did I miss a page? And the same thing with this one, the little tag with the little crocheted vintage. I think this was, it almost looks like I found several pieces of it. There's where somebody started making a tablecloth and didn't finish it. And I was lucky enough to get that at my favorite store. And if you're ever in my area in North Carolina, please check out Susanna's Antiques, because they have awesome things in there. And it's just so much. Like every time I go, I see something else, or I find something else. But they have books, they have decor, they have, oh my gosh, outdoor stuff, you know, all kinds of ephemera and, you know, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so this one, I stitched it a little bit different, so one side is longer than the other. Okay, and that is the tail of Mrs. Tittlemouse. And I've been trying to decide which one's my favorite, and I just don't know. I think they're all my favorite. So here is the tail of Miss Tiggy Winkle. Let me make sure I'm still in frame. All right, got a couple more minutes. So there are different fabrics on each one. Most of these are vintage fabrics. Or this is one I found at one of my local thrift stores, not the other store, but all the buttons are vintage. Again, same amount of signatures. They're just, things might be in different places in each book. Same little tags with the lace. And I'm going to try to have these up available on Etsy tomorrow, which is Monday, July the 9th, by 10 a.m. If I can get that done, excuse me. I had intended to do this yesterday, and I had family and friends come over, which was great. We had a great time. So I didn't get this done yesterday. So it's late Sunday afternoon, and my sweet granddaughter and my son just left, and so I'm just now getting to this, so I'll try to have this up in a bit. Like tons of stitching through here. I've just really enjoyed my sewing machine. Here's the tag in this one. And I'm gonna, for the sake of time, just leave that. I'll go back and put it back in there. And another little T envelope, and there's the bead in this one, and the paper clip. And along with these, you're gonna get a little bag of extra goodies as well. And here's the image in this. There's one book that does not have this. I put another type of tag in it. I think it's the Benjamin Bunny. Does not have that one of those in it, because originally when I started this, I had 5 books. And my sweet friend Phaedra sent me Benjamin Bunny, so I put something else in here. Okay, I'm almost at so anyway, thank you guys for looking. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave me a comment or leave me a question here on the video. And let me show you real quick. Each one of these will come with a little bag of extra goodies. And I also kept the title of the binding, so maybe you can make a bookmark or something with it, but each one comes with a bag of stuff, and that's going to be a surprise. I'm not going to show you all that, but it's a nice little package of extra things. So here's the first 3, and thanks for watching, y'all. I hope everybody's having a lovely day. Love you guys. Bye.